When we finish our business at the market, we go to the back door of the mayor's house to sell half the strawberries, knowing he has a particular fondness for them and can afford our price. The mayor's daughter, Madge, opens the door. She's in my year at school. Being the mayor's daughter, you'd expect her to be a snob, but she's all right. She just keeps to herself, like me. Since neither of us really has a group of friends, we seem to end up together a lot at school. Eating lunch, sitting next to each other at assemblies, partnering for sports activities. We rarely talk, which suits us both just fine. Today her drab school outfit has been replaced by an expensive white dress, and her blonde hair is done up with a pink ribbon. Reaping clothes. Pretty dress, says Gale. Madge shoots him a look, trying to see if it's a genuine compliment or if he's just being ironic. It is a pretty dress, but she would never be wearing it ordinarily. She presses her lips together and then smiles. Well, if I end up going to the Capitol, I want to look nice, don't I? Now it's Gale's turn to be confused. Does she mean it, or is she messing with him? I'm guessing the second. You won't be going to the Capitol, says Gale coolly. His eyes land on a small circular pin that adorns her dress. Real gold. Beautifully crafted. It could keep a family in bread for months. What can you have? 5 entries? I've had 6 when I was just 12 years old. That's not her fault, I say. No, it's no one's fault. Just the way it is, says Gale. Madge's face has become closed off. She puts some money for the berries in my hand. Good luck, Katniss. You too, I say, and the door closes. We walk towards the seam in silence. I don't like that Gale took a dig at Madge, but he's right, of course. The reaping system is unfair, with the poor getting the worst of it. You become eligible for the reaping the day you turn 12. That year, your name is entered once. At 13, twice, and so on until you reach the age of 18, the final year of eligibility. Your name goes into the pool 7 times. That's true for every citizen in all 12 districts in the entire country of Panem. But here's the catch. Say you're poor and starving as we were. You can opt to add your name in more times for exchange of tesserae. Each tesserae is worth meager year's supply of grain and oil for one person. You may do this for each of your family members as well. So at the age of 12, I had my name entered 4 times. Once because I had to, and 3 times for tesserae for grain and oil for myself, Prim, and my mother. In fact, every year I've needed to do this, and the entries are cumulative. So now at the age of 16, my name will be in the reaping 20 times. Gale, who is 18, has been either helping or single-handedly feeding a family of 5 or 7 years. Will have his name in 42 times. You can see why someone like Madge, who has never been at risk for needing tesserae, can set him off. The chance of her name being drawn is very slim compared to those of us who live in the seam. Not impossible, but slim. And even though the rules were set up by the Capitol and not the districts, certainly not Madge's family, it's hard not to resent those who don't have to sign up for tesserae. Gale knows his anger at Madge is misdirected. On the other days, deep in the woods, I've listened to him rant about how the tesserae is just another tool to cause misery in our district, a way to plant hatred between the starving workers of the seam and those who can generally count on supper and thereby ensure we will never trust one another. It's to the Capitol's advantage to have us divided among ourselves, he might say, if there were no ears to hear but mine. If it wasn't reaping day, if a girl with a gold pin and no tesserae had not made what I'm sure she thought was a harmless comment. As we walk, I glance over at Gale's face. Still smoldering underneath was his stony expression. His rage seems pointless to me, although I never say so. It's not I don't agree with him, I do, but what good is it yelling about the Capitol in the middle of the woods? It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make things fair. It doesn't fill our stomachs. In fact, it scares off the nearby gang. I let him yell, though. Better he does it in the woods than in the district. Gale and I divide our spoils, leaving 2 fish, a couple of loaves of good bread, greens, a quart of strawberries, salt, paraffin, and a bit of money for each. See you in the square, I say. Wear something pretty, he says flatly. At home, I find my mother and sister ready to go. My mother wears a fine dress from her apothecary days. Prim is in my first reaping outfit, a skirt and ruffled blouse. It's a bit big on her, but my mother has made it stay with pins. Even so, she's having trouble keeping the blouse tucked in the back. A tub of warm water waits for me. I scrub off the dirt and sweat from the woods and even wash my hair. To my surprise, my mother has laid out one of her own lovely dresses for me. A soft blue thing with matching shoes. Are you sure? I ask. I'm trying to get past rejecting offers of help from her. For a while, I was so angry I wouldn't allow her to do anything for me. And this is something special. Her clothes from the past are very precious to her. Of course, let's put your hair up too, she says. I let her towel dry it and braid it up on my head. I can hardly recognize myself in the cracked mirror that leans against the wall. You look beautiful, Prim says in a hushed voice. And nothing like myself, I say. I hug her because I know for the next few hours will be terrible for her. Her first reaping. She's about as safe as you can get since she's only entered once. I wouldn't let her take out any tesseract, but she's worried about me, that the unthinkable might happen. I protect Prim in every way I can, but I'm powerless against the reaping. The anguish I always feel when she's in pain wells up in my chest and threatens to register on my face. I notice her blouse is pulled out of her skirt in the back again and force myself to stay calm. Tuck your tail in, little duck, I say, smoothing the blouse back into place. Prim giggles and gives a small quack. Quack yourself, I say with a light laugh, the kind that only Prim can draw out of me. Come on, let's eat, I say, and plant a quick kiss on the top of her head. The fish and greens are already cooking in a stew, but that will be for supper. We decide to save the strawberries and bakery bread for this evening's meal, to make it special, we say. Instead, we drink milk from Prim's goat, Lady, and eat the rough bread made from the tesseract grain, although no one has much appetite anyway. At 1 o'clock, we head for the square. Attendance is mandatory unless you are in death's door. This evening, official will come around and check to see if this is the case. If not, you'll be imprisoned. It's too bad, really, that they hold the reaping in the square, one of the few places in District 12 that can be pleasant. The square is surrounded by shops on public market days, especially if there's good weather. It has a holiday feel to it. But today, despite the bright banners hanging on the buildings, there's an air of grimness. The camera crews, perched like buzzards on rooftops, only add to the effect. People file in silently and sign in. The reaping is a good opportunity for the Capitol to keep tabs on the population as well. 12 through 18-year-olds are herded into roped off areas marked off by ages. Oldest in the front, the young ones like Prim toward the back. Family members line up around the perimeter, holding tightly to one another's hands. But there are others, too, who have no one they love at stake. Or no longer care, who slip among the crowd, taking bets on the 2 kids whose name will be drawn. Odds are given on their ages, whether they're seam or merchant, if they will break down and weep. Most refuse dealing with racketeers, but carefully. These same people tend to be informers, and who hasn't broken the law? I could be shot on a daily basis for hunting, but the appetites of those in charge protect me. Not everyone can claim the same. Anyway, Gale and I agree that if we have to choose between dying of hunger and a bullet in the head, the bullet would be much quicker. The space gets tighter, more claustrophobic as people arrive. The square is quite large, but not enough to hold District 12's population of about 8,000. Latecomers are directed into adjacent streets where they can watch the events on screen as it's televised live by the state. I find myself standing in a clump of 16s from the scene. We all exchange terse nods, then focus our attention on the temporary stage that is set up before the Justice Building. It holds 3 chairs, a podium, and 2 large glass bowls, one for the boys and one for the girls. I stare at the paper slips in the girls' balls. 20 of them has Katniss Everdeen written on them in careful handwriting. 2 of the 3 chairs filled with Madge's father, Mayor Undersea, who's a tall, balding man, and Effie Trinket, District 12's escort, fresh from the Capitol, with her scary white grin, pinkish hair, and spring green suit. They murmur to each other, and then look with concern at the empty seat. Just as the town clock strikes 2, the mayor steps up to the podium and begins to read. It's the same story every year. He tells the history of Panem, the country that rose up out of the ashes of a place that was once called North America. He lists the disasters, the droughts, the storms, the fires, the encroaching seas that swallowed up so much of the land, the brutal war for what little sustenance remained. The result was Panem, a shining capital ringed by 13 districts which brought peace and prosperity to its citizens. Then came the dark days, the uprising of the districts against the capital. 12 were defeated and the 13th obliterated. The Treaty of Treason gave us the new laws to guarantee peace, and as our yearly reminder of the dark days we must never be repeated, it gave us the Hunger Games. The rules of the Hunger Games are simple. In punishment for the uprising, each of the 12 districts must provide 1 girl and 1 boy, called tributes, to participate. The 24 tributes will be imprisoned in a vast outdoor arena that could hold anything from a burning desert to a frozen wasteland. Over a period of several weeks, the competitors must fight to the death. The last tribute standing wins, taking kids from our districts, forcing them to kill one another while we watch. This is the Capitol's way of reminding us how totally we are at their mercy, how little chance we would stand of surviving another rebellion. Whatever words they use, the real message is clear. Look how we take your children and sacrifice them, and there's nothing you can do. If you lift a finger, we will destroy every last one of you, just like we did in District 13. To make it humiliating as well as torturous, the Capitol requires us to treat the Hunger Games as a festivity, a sporting event, pitting every district against the others. The last tribute alive receives a life of ease back home, and their district will be showered with prizes, largely consisting of food. All the year, the Capitol will show the winning district gifts of grain and oil and even delicacies like sugar, while the rest of us battle starvation. It is both a time for repentance and a time for thanks, intones the mayor. Then he reads the list of past District 12 victors. In 74 years, we have had exactly 2. Only one is still alive. Hamish Abernathy, a paunchy, middle-aged man who at this moment appears hollering something unintelligible, staggers onto the stage, and falls into the third chair. He's drunk. Very. The crowd responds with its token applause, but he's confused and tries to give Effie Trinket a big hug, which she barely manages to fend off. The mayor looks distressed. Since all of this is being televised, right now District 12 is the laughingstock of Pan Am, and he knows it. He quickly tries to pull the attention back to the reaping by introducing Effie Trinket. Bright and bubbly as ever, Effie Trinket trots to the podium and gives her signature, "Happy Hunger Games, and may the odds be ever in your favor." Her pink hair must be a wig because her curls have shifted slightly off-center since her encounter with Hamish. She goes on a bit about what an honor it is to be here, although everyone knows she's just aching to get bumped up to a better district where they have proper victors, not drunks who molest you in front of the entire nation. Through the crowd, I spot Gale looking back at me with the ghost of a smile. As reapings go, this one at least has a slight entertainment factor. But suddenly I'm thinking of Gale and his 42 names in that big last ball, and how the odds are not in his favor. Not compared to a lot of the boys, and maybe he's thinking the same thing about me because his face darkens and he turns away. But there are still thousands of slips I wish I could whisper to him. It's time for the drawing. Effie Trinket says, as she always does, "Ladies first," and crosses to the glass ball with the girls' names. She reaches in, digs her hand deep into the ball, and pulls out a slip of paper. The crowd draws in a collective breath, and then you can hear a pin drop. And I'm feeling nauseous and so desperately hoping that it's not me, that it's not me, that it's not me. Effie Trinket crosses back to the podium and smooths a slip of paper and reads out the name in a clear voice. And it's not me. It's Primrose Everdeen. And there you have it. First chapter. Yes, I know, I screwed up a lot. But I'll get better. I promise. You still know what happened in the first chapter. And it's a good cliffhanger. I have an idea of what I'm going to do with this. I think I'm going to start doing one chapter every week. That'll give people 7 days to send in their video responses to tell me what they think about the first chapter, give me some ideas. I will post one video right before I post the next chapter talking about how I personally feel about the chapter and respond to some of your videos as well. And then after that, I will continue going until we get to the end of the book, and hopefully it will be fantastic for all of us. Then obviously I will go on to Catching Fire and Mockingjay, and that's about it. Seems like the best way to go about it, at least for me anyway. I think 7 days is good enough for everybody. But yeah, I shall definitely see you all later. I hope to get many video responses from you all, and we will begin with chapter 2 next time. Say goodbye, Blade. No, say goodbye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.